All right. So, hi, J.MAK students, and welcome to MAK.STERS by J.MAK. Thank you for being here with myself and with Gary with Adventures Africa. So, this is going to be a fun one. Gary is a great resource for all things Africa. We're just chatting. He goes around 4 times a year, if not more. So, it's really some amazing, incredible trips that he can talk to you about firsthand. For those that don't know me, I'm Meg Crosby, hospitality personality at J.MAK, based in Raleigh, North Carolina. You can always reach out to me and our team by emailing hi, that's hi, at jmac.com for any questions about Adventures Africa or any of our partners. After our presentation, we're going to open the floor for a brief Q&A session, maybe a little bit more conversational. Gary and I kind of discussed today. And we also have a very exciting announcement, so stay tuned. We have our next master class session tomorrow with Ladera Resort, who also has some updates as well. They have a lot of money that they're pumping into that resort in St. Lucia. So please tune in for that for some updates there. You can view this event, Ladera Resorts Masterclass, and all of our events by visiting the jmac.com events page. You'll see a little tab there and you can register for any of the classes. You can let us know that you'll be in the area when they're on the road. That's where fam trips are located, all of that kind of stuff. So thank you for your continued support. And if you just joined, I'm going to put a link to the magazine into the chat box. So if you would like one sent to you, a copy sent to you, or a couple copies, then fill out that link and we will do so. So without further ado, again, Gary, thank you for being here and take it away.
Hey, thanks, Meg, for the intro. Everyone for taking the time to attend the webinar. And yeah, so we're going to kind of just run through a little bit of an overview of all things Africa, tell you a little bit about the company, about myself, about what we can do in terms of itineraries, how we operate, some of the areas that we focus on. And as Meg said, turn it into a little bit of a conversation at the end and hopefully answer any questions that you have, or at least attempt to. So let me go ahead and share my screen and we can jump in here. You guys see that, Meg?
Yep, good to go.
Okay, perfect. So let's go ahead and start here. So, okay. So Adventures Africa, basically a little bit about myself, and then we'll touch on the company as well. So I've been in the travel industry since about 1990, so quite a while, and always really kind of focused on the ski safari and adventure travel space. Basically working for tour operators primarily, a little stint in the middle of about 10, 11 years. I worked on the tech side and licensed and sold travel reservation systems to tour operators, ski travel companies, safari operators, golf travel companies, that type of thing. Personally, my first trip to Africa was back in 2008. I went there at the time. I was kind of into mountaineering, and I went there to climb Kilimanjaro or trek Kilimanjaro, and did that with a brother and a cousin's boyfriend, and then my wife and cousin joined us at the end for the safari. And the focus really at that time was on Kilimanjaro, but the safari portion of it kind of stole my heart, and that's what precipitated my love of Africa and kind of starting the process of going again and again. I've personally been to just about every country in our portfolio. Visited Africa about 20 times now and counting. And as Meg indicated, I get there about 4 or 5 times a year, usually for 10 to 14 days at a time. So spend quite a bit of time there and visiting our partners and experiencing the product, and just love every minute of it. And as a result of this being the space, getting over there a lot, I've actually turned into quite an avid wildlife photographer. So how did it all start? Basically, some of you may know our parent or sister company, Alpine Adventures. So Rick Reichsfeld is the owner there. And he had his first trip to Africa in about 2012, so not that long after I was there. And and fell in love with the experience, the country, the wildlife, the people as well. And so I started Adventures Africa to complement the Alpine Adventures brand. So really, we kind of have three brands now: the Alpine Adventures, Adventures Africa, and then also Anywhere Adventures for trips and items and elements that don't fall into either of the two other categories. We work with really a select group of dedicated partners on the ground over there. We like to use kind of smaller, more intimate upscale properties, kind of specialize in that 4 to 5 star space, although we can cater to any budget over there. But a lot of those smaller entities, camps and lodges, family owned, and we kind of feel that that gives you a more authentic experience while you're on the ground in Africa itself. And the company itself has been built by an experienced team. Rick's been over there a ton. I've been over there a ton. We've got some great folks working with us on the Africa side of things. And that's kind of where it all began here. So the specialties in terms of kind of what sets apart from some of the other competitors out there, we do virtually everything on a customized basis. So we're curating customized itineraries. You'll come to us with your clients' specific needs, or maybe they don't even know what they want out of an African safari experience. So we'll help you dial that in and curate that itinerary, customize that itinerary exactly based on their needs. You know, are they looking for a bush and beach where they're doing 7 days on safari and then maybe 4 nights on Zanzibar or the Seychelles, Mauritius, that type of thing? You know, we'll curate that itinerary for you. The two key kind of areas within Africa, we focus on Southern Africa and East Africa. And we'll touch a little bit more on that as we go through kind of a country overview and a regional overview. But we are expert in both of those areas. Luxury focus, as I said, but we can cater to all budgets that come to us. We do kind of specialize a lot in so rather than just a South Africa experience, that might look like a South Africa safari, some time in Cape Town, and then a few nights up in Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe or Zambia on that side. So really kind of, you know, adapt at putting those multi-destination trips together. We also can handle any of the beach and island add-ons. So you know, I think I mentioned Zanzibar, Mauritius, the Seychelles, you know, those options out there, even the Maldives, for example. You know, we've got great partners in all of those destinations to create that add-on as well. And then we can also do all of the flights. So we are a full service travel agency. We actually have some air contracts to Africa as well, Qatar, Kenya, United, etc. And at a minimum, if you're handling the international flights or the clients booking international flights, we can certainly help with all regional, domestic, and the bush flights that are needed for some of those itineraries. Some of our USPs are unique selling points. Decades of travel industry experience. The whole team here, all get to Africa regularly. All have experienced the product. All understand what it takes to put together those unique itineraries. Outstanding partners on the ground, as I mentioned. We work with both partners directly, camps, lodges, safari operators, and then also with DMCs. And if we are using a DMC, we want it to be a country-specific DMC. And so we're taking care of everything from A to Z, you know, from a meet and greet at arrival in Johannesburg or Nairobi airport to transfer pickup to all your Cape Town, you know, wine and Cape Point Peninsula tours. So really everything in that itinerary from the point you land in Africa to the point you depart, we can take care of for you. We also use industry-leading technology platform. So we use a product called Safari Portal, where, and I'll give you some screenshots of that a little bit later, where we're providing you with a beautiful itinerary. It's graphical, it's got images, you've got attached documents that you need, you know, flight details, bush flight details within Africa, baggage allowances, what to pack, what to tip your guides, etc. All that information is on there. A map, day-to-day itinerary and inclusion. So a really slick interface and a slick itinerary that you can share with your clients as well. Preferred commission levels. As J.MAK partners and agents, we actually commission at 12% on the entire itinerary for you, with the exception of kind of bush flights, regional flights, for example. And we're really, it's a competitive pricing and value model. Unlike some of the other competitors selling African safaris out there, we're not putting huge markups on the product. We don't have limitations, minimum night stay requirements. Like it has to be an 8-night itinerary. We don't have minimum spend requirements on those itineraries. So we're very flexible, and we'll entertain any request coming to us. As an example, just the other day, we've got a travel agent partner that has booked Africa with us before, but she had some clients on a world cruise that were stopping in Mombasa and in Cape Town and wanted some African safari day excursions. So that's something we can help out with, not usually in our wheelhouse, but easy for us to put together. And because there's a relationship there, we'll help on that level as well. J.MAK amenities, Meg can touch on more as well. And then plus any additional applicable, consortium amenities that may be available at the properties over in Africa itself. The primary destinations that we're working with, and this kind of breaks down into really two key regional areas. So you've got Southern Africa, which is going to include South Africa, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Namibia. And we'll look at a map in a minute. And in East Africa, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and Zanzibar. Even though it's part of Tanzania, we kind of put it in there as a separate destination. So these key areas, the primary difference between a Southern Africa and East Africa safari is how it operates. So typically in East Africa, Tanzania, for example, you're going to start in Arusha as a key area. You're going to have a private truck driver guide, and you're going to go that northern circuit from Arusha to Tarangire to Ngorongoro Crater to the Serengeti. And you're going to be with that driver guide in your private truck for that full 7-day, 6-day itinerary, whatever it is. Southern Africa, on the other hand, most of those countries, it's more of a hub and spoke or a point to point, where Botswana, you will use bush flights to get from the Delta to Chobe National Park, for example. South Africa, you're probably going to spend 4 nights in a defined safari destination like Kruger or like Madikwe, and then combine that with some time in Cape Town in flights between the two. So it's a little bit of a different scenario, one versus the other. And in East Africa, of course, you've got Uganda and Rwanda, where you're going to have those mountain gorilla experiences, and basically you can't have anywhere else. So a key draw there, and that combines really well. 3 or 4 nights in Uganda or Rwanda with a Tanzania or a Kenyan safari as well. So let's take a quick look at a map of Africa so we can kind of see what we're talking about here. So kind of the line between East and Southern is right across here. So the southern border of Tanzania, the northern border of Zambia and Mozambique, that's kind of defining. South of that is Southern Africa, and then these 4 countries up here form East Africa. So you've got Kenya here, Tanzania here, Rwanda, and then Uganda making up East Africa. And then moving down, you've got Zambia, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Namibia, South Africa, and then not so much a safari destination, but Mozambique in here for a potential add-on beach destination as well. And then Malawi in the middle, becoming more and more of a safari destination as African Parks has taken over some of their national parks. And beautiful country in here, and an easy add-on to Zambia that we can touch on a little bit later as well. Okay, so let's kind of break it down. We'll go through country by country a little bit, give a quick overview where the key safari destinations are, and looking at South Africa, what it's known for. One of Africa's kind of great wildlife destinations. Obviously, if you're talking safari, Kruger National Park has to come into the conversation, and that's going to be this dark green strip up here on the eastern border of South Africa with Mozambique. So you can see it's a huge national park, and a lot of down this kind of western border here is where all the private concessions are. And you're going to hear me use that term a bit, whether it's East Africa, whether it's Southern Africa, kind of you've got the national park, and then within that national park area or adjacent to that national park area, you have what we call private concessions. And a lot of times those are providing a more unique safari experience. We tend to use the private concessions a lot. The primary advantages there or that you have limited number of people that can utilize that concession. Only the lodges that are allowed to operate on that concession can put out trucks and safari vehicles with clients in them. No day traffic, for example, no self-drivers in there. Private concessions, you often have the ability to go off-road. You have the ability to do safari walks. You can do night drives. So there's a lot of advantages to using that. And as a result, you pay a little bit of a higher price point for that as well. Kruger up here, kind of working down the coast, you've got Peanut Game Reserve here, just north of Durban, kind of a very well-known safari destination. Also, Johannesburg and Pretoria itself are located here. And Johannesburg is kind of going to be your gateway. Johannesburg or Cape Town, the gateways for South Africa. These days, we don't do a lot of extended stays in Johannesburg, but if you want to take a night or two there, the Apartheid Museum is fascinating. And there's some really high quality hotels in the suburbs around Johannesburg. But typically our clients aren't spending a lot of time there. Cape Town, on the other hand, one of the more beautiful cities in the world that I've visited, one of my favorite places. And we typically on a South Africa itinerary would look at doing a 3 or 4 night stay there, combining Cape Town with Franschhoek, with Stellenbosch for the winelands, things of that nature there as well. Other key areas, you've got Madikwe Game Reserve up here. You've got, Shamwari and Kwanwe and those reserves down here. And then the Garden Route, beautiful coastal route between Knysna and Cape Town on this side here. So those are all kind of key destinations that will fit into a standard South African safari itinerary. And in talking with some of these different game reserves, Kruger, for example, is a malarial area. They do have mosquitoes with malaria, whereas Madikwe, Shamwari, Pinda, those areas do not. So if there is a concern about traveling with young kids, with families, and you don't want to take antimalarial prophylactics, you do have options that you can take that aren't going to provide that exposure. Cool. And so, and you can see the proximity of Botswana to South Africa, and Namibia to South Africa, and then up here we have Zimbabwe. So really easy to combine South Africa with those other destinations as well. Okay. And just some images. This, the next shot of each of these destinations. It's going to be some images from that country itself. This is Cape Town down here, Cape Grace Hotel with Table Mountain in the background. Kruger area and the Sabi Sands concessions around Kruger, well known for their leopards, for their big cats. So you're going to have that type of information as well. What specific safari destinations are known for what specific animals? If you're looking for specific encounters, etc. What's the best terrain, best area to send clients? If you really want to experience elephants, where should we go? And where am I going to see cheetah, for example? So all things that kind of come into play and that we can help with. And then just a taste of some of the lodges, the interior. This is, I believe, a Singita property here, but just kind of the quality and the beauty of some of those higher end lodging options on offer. So, kind of moving to the west, looking at Namibia. Namibia really characterized by its dramatic scenery, the desert habitat, the harsh environment from the Skeleton Coast to Tosha National Park. And you do it's a little bit of a different safari experience. It wouldn't necessarily be what I would say someone's standard first safari experience, but those that have done South Africa, that have done Tanzania, Namibia should be high on the list if they're looking at something a little bit different, something else to experience in Africa. You have desert adapted animals, so desert adapted lions, hyenas, desert adapted elephants, rhinos, all of those here. The Skeleton Coast, the Shipwreck Coast up here, a completely different scenic area. And, the red sand dunes in Sosavlei and Dedvlei and the Skeleton Coast there. And also this little strip, the Caprivi strip up here in the Zambezi region, where you're getting a taste of Botswana, within Namibia itself. And Namibia, because of the size of the country and the distances between destinations, typically it's going to be a bush flying safari. So Windhoek is the gateway, and then kind of using bush flights to get from the various destinations to form your itinerary for that Namibia experience. And just a taste of some of that scenery in Namibia, spectacular. And Namibia known for its night skies as well as the red dunes and the wild coast here as well. Botswana. So coming a little bit to the east of Namibia, north of South Africa, we have Botswana, which is home to, as I said here, home to some of the finest wilderness areas in Africa, and its its model really has been high value, low volume tourism. And with that typically comes a higher price point. So you are going to pay more for your Botswana experience, but you're not going to have the crowding that you might have in the Masai Mara or the Serengeti, and some other areas. And one of the other big differences with Botswana is the water component. You can see the areas of blue in here. And this area here is the Okavango Delta, these fingers coming in from the north. And just a completely unique ecosystem, different animals, different topography, and having that water component. Your safari in Botswana, can easily include not just the game drives and being out in the truck, but you're going to be out in a motorboat. You're going to do sundowners on a boat in the lagoons and the waterways there. You're going to get out on a traditional Makoro canoe with your guide, and you're going to see and experience elephants, from a canoe, 50, 100 feet in front of you. So it's just, a really unique aspect to Botswana is that whole water component. And on the flip side, then, just not that far to the southeast, you've got the Nkarikari salt pans and the Pans here, which are, when dried out, no water there, and a completely different desert experience than what you have up in the Okavango Delta. Same with the Central Kalahari here, huge tract of protected space. And again, very dry, more desert oriented animals there. And I was actually just there recently, and we had an amazing experience where one of our camps had a water hole right next to it, and it was visited by a leopard 2 nights in a row. And we'd be sitting there, 10 o'clock at night. I happened to have my camera, and this leopard visited the water hole and then walked directly towards us, 20, 30 feet away, past us, and up to the swimming pool because it preferred to have a drink from the pool rather than the water hole that was on offer there. So just some super cool experiences within Botswana. One of my favorite places to safari. And then also very convenient to Victoria Falls. So the key areas in Botswana, Mon is going to be your typical safari gateway here, and then Kasane up here in the north. Those two are typically where most of your safaris are going to start and end. And again, bush flights like Namibia, bush flights to get from one location to another within Botswana. And in a very easy land transfer, a quick flight from Kasane to Victoria Falls, and you can combine, a couple nights in Victoria Falls with your Botswana adventure also. And here's just some images from Botswana. You can see the water aspect of things. Also, big populations of wild dog, the sand bushmen. So you're going to have cultural experiences on offer there as well, and super high quality camps. And again, with the price tag, some of the safari properties in Botswana, can reach, $4,500 per person per night for a camp. So it can be really exclusive, but we do have options to make it affordable there as well. Zimbabwe, to the east of Botswana, north of South Africa. Really authentic safari. And the Zimpro guiding, some of the guides in Botswana, highly regarded, in regard to some of the best guides in Africa, the gold standard there. And a standard safari circuit in Zimbabwe is going to include Victoria Falls as your gateway. And then Hwange National Park, huge elephant herd. Some of the elephant experiences in Hwange are top notch. A lot of different topography within Hwange National Park itself, and a lot of different camps on offer there. And Zimbabwe kind of gives you some of that water experience as well with Lake Kariba here, with Manapools and the Zambezi River up here at a lower price point to Botswana. So kind of a standard circuit might be Hwange, Matusadana, and Lake Kariba here. A beautiful large lake looking over to Zambia. You can get out on the water. You can do sunset cruises there, and then your game drives in Matusadana National Park, and then ending up in Manapools, right on the Zambezi River here. Again, looking over into Zambia, and some really kind of unique. A lot of wild dog population in mountain pools. Some of those images you may have seen of elephants going up on their hind legs to eat from the trees, that kind of happens up in mountain pools. They've adapted to that behavior there as well. And then some kind of a couple other key areas, Matobo and Gonarazu down here, not as often visited, maybe more of a second, third type of safari destination, but you'd be kind of focused on this this northern itinerary here for a first-time visitor. And then some images of Zimbabwe. Again, wild dogs, Victoria Falls itself. And we touched on Victoria Falls. They're really, Victoria Falls basically spans Zimbabwe and Zambia. So you have the option to experience Victoria Falls from either side. Zimbabwe probably a little more developed in terms of number of properties there. We tend to use a property like this, Victoria Falls River Lodge, up on the river, about 12 miles or so outside of town. Beautiful treehouse suites on one of their private islands. So some really unique experiences that get you out of the hustle and bustle of Victoria Falls town. And then over on the Zambia side, you've got some equivalent properties, again, right on the river, getting out on the boats, seeing the hippos, crocs, elephants, from the water. And you've actually got a kind of a walking with rhinos option on the Zambia side that we can incorporate into and experience there as well. And in Zambia, so bit of an undiscovered gem. It's not as often sold as other destinations yet, and it's certainly something that should be involved in the conversation. Really providing kind of a Botswana experience, and again, like I mentioned with Zimbabwe, at a much lower price point, but still offering relatively uncrowded, pristine environments. You've got Kafue National Park down here with the Busango Plains in the top here, really reminiscent of Botswana. Lower Zambezi, right on the Zambezi River down here. Spectacular camps, spectacular wildlife. South Luangwa National Park over here. This area known as the Valley of the Leopard, so providing comparable leopard sightings to what you have in the Sabi Sands in South Africa. And so this is a really kind of cool circuit. Those three areas combined with your gateway in Livingstone, Zambia, down here. And very easy then to get from Zambia over into Malawi. And there's an operator we work with called Green Safaris that has camps in each of those areas and also has a camp on Lakoma Island in Lake Malawi. And it's a lake, but you would never know it. It's such a beautiful area. You'd think you were at the ocean somewhere. So that's kind of a final stop to their standard circuit, ending up with 2-3 nights on Lakoma Island in Lake Malawi. So some really cool experiences you can have in Zambia. And just as a kind of point of reference, Kafue National Park here is about the same size as Kruger National Park in South Africa. Kruger National Park might get, I don't know, 1.5 million visitors annually, whereas Kafue National Park, it's about 10,000. So you can see kind of the differentiation between how crowded the space may be and the number of visitors. And some images from Zambia. The Victoria Falls here, this is the falls in the Zambezi River running into the falls north of the bridge. And this is the bridge that from Zimbabwe over to Zambia here. Little camp in Busango Plains, kind of designed after a bird's nest. That's one of the Green Safaris camps there. A leopard on offer here, and then kind of talking about that, getting out in a canoe, getting out in a Makoro, and having a wildlife experience from water level. Just pretty special. So now we kind of transition from Southern Africa to East Africa. And so we're moving north into Tanzania, Zambia down here, Mozambique here, and really kind of three key safari circuits within Tanzania. Each one of them in their own right, fantastic wildlife destination. The most well-known and popular is going to be the Northern Circuit. And Arusha in here, this little town, is going to be the gateway to safaris within Tanzania. And Arusha, not marked here, but the international airport is Kilimanjaro. There it is, Kilimanjaro International Airport, just south of Arusha. And that's going to be your international gateway. And then typically we'll do an overnight, one night in Arusha. Then you meet your driver guide, get your safari truck the following morning, and then you start on your Northern Circuit safari. And that typically will include Tarangire or Lake Manyara, Ngorongoro Crater, and then the Serengeti. And dependent upon time of year, that will determine where you really want to stay in the Serengeti. And if the Great Migration is a focus, then a time of year will really dictate where you want to be there. That the Great Migration is a constantly moving cycle of wildebeest, millions of wildebeest, zebra, and it works in a clockwise manner, going up into the Masai Mara in Kenya. So down here in the earlier part of the year is where they're going to be calving, and then up here come kind of August, September into October, they're going to be in the north and into Kenya as well. So that's the northern circuit. Other options within Tanzania, Nairi and Ruaha, which kind of form that southern circuit. Less discovered, less visited than the northern parks, but amazing wildlife, a little bit more raw. Again, kind of second, third safari options would be a great destination there. You're not going to see many people. Truly unique experience there. And then Mahali and getting into some of Gombe, getting into some of the chimpanzee and the primates in the eastern part of Tanzania as well. And then for that bush and beach scenario, Zanzibar, kind of a fascinating place, Stone Town, the old, all the history around the spice markets, the slave trade in Zanzibar, and then some great beach resorts there. And it's some of these others, Mafia Island, Pemba Island, a little bit more exclusive, a little bit less developed than Zanzibar as a beach add-on as well. Some images from Tanzania, I think Gibbs Farm here up in Ngorongoro Crater, the wildebeest migration down here, and kind of those iconic river crossings where if you're fortunate enough to get to see them cross the river and with the predator action, things like that, it can be pretty spectacular. Some of the quality level of the camps on offer there, and then the iconic Mount Kilimanjaro, and we do Kilimanjaro treks. With a great partner over there, we do them as a standalone itinerary. We also do them as part of a larger itinerary. And a lot of times people will come in, spend a night or two in Arusha, do their Kilimanjaro trek, and then head out on safari after that. I've done Kilimanjaro myself a couple times. I've actually led clients up there. So we're pretty well versed in what's involved and happy to arrange those itineraries for you. And in the Maasai, some of the cultural experiences you can tap into within Tanzania as well. Rwanda, we're looking at small country just to the west of Tanzania. Primarily, the focus here is going to be your gorilla tracking. So Kigali is going to be the gateway in the center of the country here. It's a small country, so typically you'll do a drive from Kigali to Volcanoes National Park and the Virunga Mountains up here. Really, primarily upscale lodges there, small intimate lodges, and the focus is going to be your gorilla trek. And both Rwanda and Uganda offer the gorilla trekking. A couple of the differences: Rwanda, the price for the permit itself is going to be significantly higher than Uganda. So you pay about $1,500 per person for the permit to trek with those gorillas, and that's going to be an hour's time spent with a gorilla family. And that trek in will really depend on what you're looking for. If you're looking for a more adventurous trek, you can be assigned a family that's further away from the start. If you're mobility impaired or you want a shorter, easier trek, you can make that request as well. And most people will do one trek. If you're there for a couple of nights, you could opt to do two treks with different families. So it's really, we can cater to any specific needs there as well. But it's an amazing experience. For me, spending time with the gorillas was certainly, perspective changing, if not life changing, and just really, really an amazing experience. Then other options within Rwanda, in that Volcanoes National Park area, you've still got the golden monkey tracking. You've got other primates that you can see there, cultural experiences there as well. For kind of a full-on safari within Rwanda itself, Akagera National Park over here is going to be a big five destination, and you're going to do your standard game drive, standard safari there also. And then Nyungwe down here, National Park in the southwest, is it's going to be kind of one of the older remaining rainforests in Africa, and I think about 12 different types of primates or so that you can experience there. So really, you can put within Rwanda itself, you can put a nice little itinerary combination together also. And some of those images from Rwanda, beautiful, beautiful scenery there itself. Obviously, the gorillas. This is Zingita property down here, so the kind of style and nature of the quality of accommodations in Volcanoes National Park. Along with this one, this Basati Lodge there again, like in the property I showed in Zambia, designed after a bird's nest there as well. Uganda, similar to Rwanda for the gorilla experience. One of the differences here is going to be that you have two different gorilla locations. You've got Bwindi Impenetrable National Park down here and Gahinga Gorilla National Park there. So two different options in where you can see the gorillas. And the permits within Uganda are about, I think it's $750 or $800 per person. So about half the price that they are in Rwanda. So certainly a good option if budget is consideration and you want to save some money on those trekking permits here as well. And Uganda really stands alone as a safari destination also. Entebbe is going to be the international airport and your gateway here. And typically you're going to do flights, bush flights to Bwindi, bush flights to Murchison Falls. So a standard circuit in Uganda might be Murchison Falls National Park, where you have the falls themselves. You've got great safari wildlife viewing there. Coming down into Queen Elizabeth National Park, into the tree climbing lines, etc. down there, getting into Kabale National Park for the chimpanzee trekking. So you get additional primate options in Uganda as well. So that's a pretty awesome safari circuit itself within Uganda. And again, you can see the proximity to Kenya, the proximity to Tanzania. So really easy to combine the gorillas in a Uganda experience with Kenya, with Tanzania down here also. Again, the gorilla families. This is one of the Volcano Safaris properties in Volcanoes National Park, and another property here in Murchison Falls. But great wildlife in Uganda also. Often not the first destination many people may think for that, but still holds its own. And then finally, taking a look at Kenya, to the north of Tanzania, to the east of Uganda. Lots of different safari options within Kenya. Nairobi here is going to be your gateway, your national gateway. Easy access from the U.S. as well. You've got a nonstop flight from JFK on Kenya Airways, but certainly plenty of airlift into Nairobi. And then from here, probably the preeminent destinations for safari in Kenya is going to be the Masai Mara. We often use private concessions, that term I talked about before, in the Masai Mara because it can get crowded there in high season. So the reserve itself can be crowded, but those private concessions are limited to the camps on this concession and the vehicles associated with that camp. So that provides for a more intimate experience within the Mara itself. You can also do a game drive into the National Reserve as well as the concession drives as well. But the animals don't, the wildlife doesn't know whether it's a concession or whether it's a reserve, and they will come and go, in and out of those areas also. Samburu National Reserve up here, a much different topography, much different climate, much drier areas. So you could actually variations of giraffe, of zebra. You'll see cheetah up there. So some cool options here in the Samburu area, and a different the Samburu tribesmen as well up there for the cultural side of things also. Lake Nakuru in the middle. Tsavo East and West down here, Amboseli National Park. These areas kind of known for their views of Amboseli, particularly known for its views of Kilimanjaro from the backside, and then Tsavo known for the elephant, the huge tuskers that Kenya is famous for there as well. Laikipia Plateau, you've got kind of smaller reserves there. And a lot of these different areas offer different experiences within Kenya. You've got horseback safari, you can take ATVs out, you can do mountain biking. really kind of like South Africa. You get a really well-rounded experience within Kenya. A couple nights in Nairobi to visit some of the Sheldrick, Wildlife Trust, where the orphanage there, where they rescue orphan elephants and rhino. So some cool options there. And then Mombasa, Diani Beach down here. There's an area called Watamu. So actually on the Kenyan coast, beautiful coastline, you've got the option to really easily add on a couple nights at the beach following your safari there. Um, the safaris in Kenya, you can do them either as kind of almost a hub and spoke bush flight option, or you can actually do a driving circuit there. So those looking to save a little bit of money can do the driving circuit. Those more focused on efficient use of their time could do the bush flight options or some combination of the two. And then just some shots of the beach in Kenya on the coast there. Again, the Maasai, the big tusker elephants in that Tsavo area, and I look at one of the camps there also. So we kind of touched on a bit of each different country, different destination region, in what that looks like. But what does a day on safari exactly consist of? And this is going to vary a little bit based on country and vary a little bit based on region, for example, as I touched on East Africa versus Southern Africa before. But a standard day on safari, you're going to start early. You're going to start, 5:30 in the morning, have a little bit of a snack before hitting the road, have a coffee break while you're out there, but you'll get out in the truck right at sunrise. And the reason they do this, the AM, the PM, sunrise and sunset drives, that's when the animals and the wildlife are most active. So during the heat of the day, they tend to rest, and so that's what we do on safari. So typically you'll be out in the AM or the PM, 3 to 4 hours each time. You'll come back from that morning game dive, have some brunch. You've got the majority of the middle part of the day to relax, use the pool, go to the spa, take a nap, and then you're back out again on the truck in the afternoon. And if it's on offer, if we're using a private concession in an area where bushwalks are offered, you can go out and choose to do a bushwalk in the middle of the day as well. One of the things that kind of blew me away with some of these safari camps is the quality and the abundance of food. What they're producing in these kitchens, and they're, for the most part, the properties we're using are sourcing it locally. So they're getting local produce, they're getting local beef, and what they're doing on the culinary side of things is pretty amazing. And there will be no shortage of food. You will be well fed on safari. They'll also incorporate unique experiences in the bush. Sundown. So the standard stop, as the sun's going down, is to pick a really cool location, whether it's at a water hole with some hippo, and then watch the sun go down with a gin and tonic or whatever your preferred cocktail is at that point. And many times that PM game drive will extend into the dark. So you get a bit of a night drive coming home, and you'll see some of those nocturnal animals that you wouldn't ordinarily have a chance to see during the day. And then again, here, just reinforcing that private concession side of things. And that's when you get into some of those other offerings, the walking safaris, for those who want to stretch your legs, get out. And you can approach animals, and you will see animals when you're out there. But a lot of times it's about learning about the flora, the fauna, the smaller things, seeing how a dung beetle operates and things of that nature. And then kind of our additional destinations. So we focus on the safari to this point, but really a lot of our clients are taking advantage of these add-ons, particularly honeymooners, those that may feel they may not get back to Africa for a while. They're going to want to do a little bit of a decompression time at the end. And safari's tiring. When you've got those early starts, you're out for a trek for 6 to 8 hours a day. It's not a bad idea to have a couple of nights, a couple of days on the beach at the end of that, just to decompress a bit. And that's where kind of destinations like Zanzibar, the Seychelles, Mauritius, in this photo here, even the Maldives, Mozambique, Malawi, even Madagascar, great beaches, and also a whole different side of safari there as well with the lemurs. And we're starting to kind of looking at opening up Madagascar. It's not something we've offered a lot of to this point, but that will be something that's going to be on offer going forward as well. And then, I touched on earlier at the start of the presentation about the technology. So this is a sample of what you're going to get from us in terms of the itinerary that's presented to you. So this is a South Africa Mauritius honeymoon in April. So it's a nice graphical itinerary. We've got all kinds of attachments, our customized traveling guide, flying guide, Mauritius arrival information. So whatever you need can be added to that. Day-to-day itinerary, overview. We can specify by flights, by accommodation, all the details they need as they walk through. It's going to generate a map for you as well. Where are they going to be located within those destinations, and how does that itinerary flow, for example? And we can kind of put your kind of customized branding on here as well. You see the silver meet and greet flights, arrival. I'll say, even if you book the client's flights, we'll add them to this itinerary, so everything is aggregated under one location for your clients. Restaurant reservations can be dropped in here as well. Lots of graphical images here, and then costing, payment links that will apply there, so the client can just pop on here, click that payment link, and make their deposit or final payment with credit card there as well. And so kind of wrapping up a bit here, what's next? Where do we go from here? I provided kind of this information, giving you a taste of Africa. So we're ready to help you in any way we can. As I mentioned earlier, preferred commission structure. We pay that commission prior to your client traveling. You don't have to wait around for that until the client has traveled. Fully customizable itineraries. We're doing almost everything on a customized basis. We do typically have 3 to 4 scheduled departures a year, and those might be 10 client slots that we're selling into, and one of us will escort that trip. We're just getting ready to kind of set those up for next year, and can make those available as well. We looked at the Safari portal side of things, multi-destination specialists we touched on before. Again, reinforcing our firsthand knowledge. We like to visit all the destinations and as many of the properties that we sell as possible and get to know them firsthand. And then we also want to empower you. We were doing this as it's a partnership, it's teamwork. So if you've got a client that has some specific needs for Africa, and you're selling Africa for the first time, and you need some reinforcement, you want some help, we will happily jump on a conference call with you and answer questions with you and your client. We'll all walk through that together, and then kind of empower you there and you hand the client back to you at the end of that. We touched on the international contract airfares that we can help with, and also the J.MAK amenities, just to reinforce that. And so with that, it kind of wraps things up, and I'm happy to open it up to any questions and any conversation elements that we need at this point.
Thanks, Gary. Well, we have a lot of them, so this is great. I mean,
okay, all right.
So get ready. I mean, this is incredible. Honestly, like, just listening to you, and not only the passion that you have for the entire continent, obviously.
Yeah.
FYI, the bottom is falling out now at my house here in Raleigh. So hopefully I don't get disconnected either. But truly, the passion that you have is really insane. The amount of knowledge that you have in each destination. I mean, so guys, this is such an incredible resource for you. Use Gary, use the team. And not only that, I can say too, Gary, you're a great guy and super fun to hang out with. So
Thank you. Thanks.
He's great to get on. Great to get on a call, either with you or with the clients involved too, to really like suss things out and figure out the best destinations, and trips and itineraries and all that kind of stuff as well. So Gary there's his contact information. He will also be following up with you via email, so no worries on that. We'll be able to send kind of the presentation and what Adventures Africa does and how they handle things, and just a general recap for everything. And now a couple of questions. So I have a couple personally, and I'm curious about like the future of Africa, like what you've seen, how it's changed as far as travel, luxury travel in the space, and like what you think the future of Africa is. Is it going to get, is it specific destinations that are going to just get overrun, or how are we doing with conservation efforts too in that kind of space? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Meg. And it's a question that actually really came out a lot during the pandemic. As we were trying to support our partners over there, and everyone kind of took a look around and was trying to figure out, how do we become better stewards of the places that we visit and where we travel to, and not just rush back to necessarily things the way they were before. And I think to some degree, they've done a good job with that. Africa right now is a very popular destination. We're super busy. People want to go. They kind of felt they've put this off for a while, and maybe they kind of moved up that time frame, right, in terms of taking these big ticket trips. And what we do, I think the future there is pretty bright. It has its struggles, for sure. Many countries over there do. There's a lot of corruption still, and that comes into play in terms of as far as destinations and what's happening. But there's a lot of good people trying to work through this, and we really try and partner with folks that have a strong conservation and community ethos. So not only is it conservation of the animals and the wildlife, but they're uplifting the community. So the camps and properties that we work with typically will employ from the surrounding villages, surrounding communities. They're going to also get their produce from those areas. The camps will help support healthcare, will help support education. So it really becomes kind of a win-win for that scenario. And I think that's really critical for Africa is when the local communities see the benefit to wildlife tourism, that's when everyone's going to benefit from it. And that's where you're going to make some progress on the anti-poaching. And that's where you're going to, when they see the value of those animals that up until then may have just been a nuisance, or, who wants an elephant running through your field when that's all you have to worry about are the crops there. So, there's a lot of different dynamics in play, but I think in general, it's positive. And there's a lot of good people working towards that goal. As I said, certainly struggles. It's not easy. Poaching now is a super organized, element, and it's hard to combat. But there are tools in place. And again, I think really that community upliftment and the community involvement and community benefit is critical.
Yeah, agree. That's great. Okay, so holy moly. Okay. Where do we start? Let's start from the top, really. So Debbie is curious about if you guys use Singita properties, which I'm sure you do. To that question, what are some other well-known maybe camps or lodges that you kind of work with on the regular that are
Sure.
favorites of clients that, our advisors would know?
Yeah, sure. Sure. Now I'll run off a few of them. So yeah, we do absolutely work with Singita. Great property. Again, a great organization. One of those that is very involved in conservation, very very involved in community upliftment. Singita, we work with Great Plains. We work with Desert Delta in Botswana. We work with Sabi Sabi, Dolini in the Sabi Sands area, with Asilia, with Lamala. So all of those kind of, and a lot of those are going to be those camps that they're not like a Four Seasons where you've got 40, 50 rooms. Hey, nothing against Four Seasons, but we tend to focus on kind of the smaller, more intimate properties where they may have between 6 and 12 rooms or tents, and we just feel that I don't know. That's what I want my African experience to be. For example, a little bit more intimate, a little bit different than the ordinary.
Totally. Okay, perfect. So let's see. Adriana had a quick question. She did not see what was best, to see the Victoria Falls from Zambia or Zimbabwe, and what's the difference?
Yeah. So I don't know that I'd say there's a better side. It can be different, and it could be time of year. Victoria Falls is subject to water flows based on the rains coming from Angola, so it's going to be drier and wetter at certain times of year. So that may dictate when the client's going, may dictate where they want to be. I would say if they want a little bit more chill vibe, then it might be the Zambia side of things. Livingston's a pretty cool town. Victoria Falls, more hustle and bustle. On the flip side, Zimbabwe has more of the falls on their side. So you're going to had that walk along the falls is really kind of the whole front of the falls from Zim side. On the Zambia side, you're still getting a great look, but you're on the corner coming around and then going out into the middle. You're there. Zambia has Devil's Pool. So those adventure seekers that want to get out and sit in that pool at the top of the falls, that's on the Zambia side. So, different things come into play in terms of where we're going to recommend. If they're really focused on rhino, you're not going to see rhino on the Zim side, but you can walk with rhinos on the Zambia side. So, there are pluses and minuses to both sides. And I think it would just depend on what your clients are looking for, which direction we would point them.
Perfect. Let's see here. Carol has a question. If you offer transfers via train or all the transfers using bush planes?
So no, we can do so. Typically, the transfers, if they're on an itinerary, we'll use bush flights to get them around. But we do work with Roadwest Rail with Blue Train. So if they want a rail itinerary and safari via rail, we can certainly help and work with that, and we would offer that itinerary.
Okay, perfect. What would be the most recommended option to go with children to enjoy safari and alternative periods to travel? Not sure I fully understand, but maybe let's start with the children thing first too. Age limits as well for children. That's a question we have.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great question. I think age limits, part of it is going to be your specific children. At their age, are they ready for a safari or not? It's going to vary, I think, a little bit. The age limits will depend on the individual safari camps. So some will be family friendly and they will have kids camps set up, and those are the properties that we could direct them to. Others are going to have a limit. It may be 16 years old or 12 years old that you can't have kids younger than that at the camp. To some degree, that will depend on the camp. Is the camp fenced? Is it unfenced? If it's unfenced, they're typically not going to let kids under 12 years old be in that camp, or maybe under 8 years old, because the animals are going to be wandering through, and you're going to have to be escorted by an askari or a guard from the main camp area to your rooms, for example. Whereas a fenced camp, the children are not going to have to worry about that. You're not going to have to worry about your children in that element. So it's really going to vary. I think we touched on earlier, is the risk of contracting malaria an issue? So then maybe you're looking at South Africa and Madikwe or Shamwari, where they don't have malaria. That may well define that that's where you want to send your young kids, for example, take your young kids on safari, for example. So it's really going to come down to, kind of where they want to go, the age of the kids themselves, and what they're looking to experience. And the flip side, in East Africa, Tanzania, how long can your kids sit in a truck for? That will be a big driver, like when an overland safari versus the excitement of taking a bush flight, for example. So those factors all come into play.
Totally. So I think for a lot of these questions too, guys, is like, your clients may have an idea in mind of what they're thinking about, what they want to do. I think, Gary, what you guys do the best is like focus on those highlights, right? Like what wildlife they're looking to see. What is their style of travel? It's kind of those important questions that you're going to be talking to the team with, and then we'll figure out the specific destination, what's best for them based on their budget and things like that. I mean, it's really, really bespoke custom itineraries to a T. Each and every single one. So I think that's kind of like the key point here. It's not, of course, everyone, as you guys know, like sees something on TikTok and they have an idea of what it's going to be like, and they want to do that too. But perhaps it may not be the best specific option for them. So work with the team to figure out, what can be accomplished for their trip.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point, Megan. I think, we typically get two kinds of requests coming in. One will be, I have clients that want to go on safari, and that might be the extent of it, so then we'll have a list of questions that we come back with, trying to define specifically what they're looking for, animals, destinations, et cetera. And then we have clients that will be, I want to go to South Africa, I want 4 nights in Cape Town, I want to be Kruger, and I want to see Victoria Falls. So those are that's the spectrum of the requests that come in, and then so I'll fire back an email. We'll fire back an email. please answer these questions. That then gives us a starting point, and we will then work with the agent and the clients to dial into the specific itinerary after that.
Perfect. One quick thing that we do have, and this is kind of in terms of budget. I mean, it's a very specific question, but I do think it kind of helps with everyone on budgets and what you guys can cover. But Lee has sent a couple of different quotes over to you. You guys have worked together, but nothing
Yeah.
unfortunately converted. We're working on it. No worries.
Hi,
But
Lee.
she does have a new client who is a solo traveler. She and looking for Tanzania and Zanzibar for 7 to 8 nights, and the budget is around $4,000. Like, is something like that even possible, or what would you say the limited spend kind of that you'd be looking for those destinations specifically? That's a hard one to
Yeah,
I'm trying to get some budget kind of information in there
sure,
too,
sure.
so.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. And hey, Lee, and yeah, it's um, that's not a big number for a solo traveler for 7 nights to Africa. I think you need to they need to spend a little bit more than that. I mean, the Zanzibar side of things, obviously, the cost there is going to be less, and we can do a couple $100 per night, on that scenario. But I think if you're looking for a decent quality safari option, you're going to be looking at about $1,000 per person per night. And if you're taking a single traveler, add about 50% to that. So if you want a nice quality option, call it $1,500 per night. And that's all inclusive. That's your truck, your driver guide, your meals, most cases your drinks, with the exception of top shelf liquor, and all your activities. So that's an all inclusive number, which you have to remember. So if you were saying 4 nights safari and 3 nights on Zanzibar, four at 1,500 a person, there's $6,000 and 200 a night in Zanzibar. So you might be more like $7,000, for that trip instead of $4,000, for example, to have a quality experience. And really in terms of general budget, I think a good example I like to point out, and I've run multiple trips like this, where you have 3 or 4 nights in Kruger, 4 nights in Cape Town, 2 nights in Victoria Falls. So maybe a 9 or 10 night trip in total with the flights in between. We can run that trip for about $5,000 per person, double occupancy, and a really strong 4-star itinerary. So that'll give you kind of a barometer or a benchmark. And then obviously, I just booked a family of 8 or 10 over there to Botswana for 7 or 8 nights, and they're spending $120,000. So kind of there's your range, right?
Perfect. Super helpful, definitely. So Lee, no problem. Just get them to double the budget and then you're good to go. And I think that's kind of what you just answered to. Alexa, thank you for asking and kind of summing it up. So the general budget, like you just kind of said, per person per day for mid-range. So would that like $5,000 trip be, you said 4 star, so like mid-range and then ish?
Yeah, I think to be honest, Meg, I think like when I look at it, like yeah, we're in the luxury space, but I think like the sweet spot for me on Safari is not necessarily the 5-star properties. It's the really good 4-star property. I mean, that's where I'd rather stay personally. And I think like yeah, you're that 5-6 grand for that itinerary and 4-star properties. They're gonna have an amazing experience, and there will be nothing that they don't enjoy about the properties that we utilize on that trip.
Awesome. Perfect. And then we're gonna follow up. I just have a quick question too. This will probably be the last one. So if I didn't answer it, I apologize. I am just curious about some of your favorite itineraries, Gary, and
Yeah,
why.
sure, sure. Yeah, so for me, I think I referenced earlier, like Botswana is just it's kind of next level just in terms of the lack of people there and having that water component, having all the different options available to you. It's super special, and some of the things I've seen there, just amazing. But anytime you're out there, wherever you're going, you're going to see something remarkable, right? Tanzania and that northern safari circuit, even though it's a busy circuit and a lot of people do it, experiencing Ngorongoro Crater for the first time is amazing. You've never seen anything like it in your life, right? And um, like I talked about Zambia in juxtaposition to Botswana from a price point, value point. Zambia is amazing. Like I go back there in a second and visit that circuit. So yeah, it's in my mind. There's no wrong safari or bad safari or bad place safari. It's all good, right? But
Perfect.
I'd have to say if I were to pick a country, Botswana would have to be up there.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so should we get to kind of the fun news about our partnership later this year?
Yeah,
Do you want to spill the beans or you want me?
you go ahead. You go ahead. You spill it, and I'll add anything I need to.
Perfect. Well, guys, we have an amazing opportunity to visit Africa with the team, Gary and Adventures Africa, later this year. So it's going to be a J.MAK fam trip to Africa. Mind blown. So we have dates. We're looking at November. And this is going to be East Africa, right? And we're doing a
Yep.
kind of flight safari excursion all throughout Kenya. So really, really 8 days, hosted trips. I mean, this is really beyond incredible. I've never been. I've been in the travel industry space for quite some time now, and I ask every advisor and a lot of travelers kind of what is the top destination that they've been to, traveled personally. I'm always interested, and I will say that like 99% of the time, if they've been to any part in Africa, it's Africa that they say. So really great opportunity to experience this with Gary and the team. Anything you want to add, Gary? We're going to send out more information. We just kind of wanted to spill the beans a little bit today on the
Yep.
webinar. And then you'll have to stay posted and get those bookings through too. Start talking with Gary, blow him up, keep him busy, and we'll see what transpires. But Gary, anything you want to add?
Yeah, no, I think that's great, Meg. And like you said, just kind of make that intro. And it is as fams go, it is a super cool fam. We are super lucky to have been given this opportunity with Sky Safari, and it is going to be a flying safari, and not just any flight. They've actually taken a Cessna and tricked it out with all business class seats. So we will be traveling in style. We will have our own private guides, private vehicles. Yeah, it's going to be remarkable.
Insane. The trip of a lifetime for sure. So thank you for everyone for joining. Don't worry, Gary and myself, we're both going to follow up with you guys via email. We'll send all the necessary information to you, and I'll send a recording of the webinar. You can catch this on our YouTube channel as well, J.MAK Hospitality. Anytime you need us, reach out to us. Gary and the team at Adventures Africa, you can reach them by the JMAK at email address. That's kind of the best one. And then always copy in hi@jmak.com. All of that info can be found on JMAK under their partner page. And don't forget too, we love, this is just a full in dive on Adventures Africa, but Alpine Adventures as well, you guys. I mean, ski destinations, not just during ski season too. I mean, they have relationships with these partners year round. I am not a ski bunny. You can catch me après skiing with champagne, a little bubbly in hand at the hot tub. So if you have clients looking for mountain destinations, Alpine Adventures is definitely the way to go. They commission, again, I mean, they work so well with advisors. They commission on the full package. So if you are doing, ski rentals and ski butlers and all that kind of stuff, it is commissionable. Ski lessons, flights, they take care of everything. So really, really great partners. I can't thank you enough, Gary, for your time. I hope to see you before you travel in May, possibly.
Yeah, no, I'll let you know on that, Meg. I'll get up there for sure at some point.
Perfect. Awesome.